Absolute Green Lantern's first issue has officially come out, and man, what an issue. I feel like I'm saying this basically every single new issue for Absolute DC. All of their titles have not only had great first issues, which is honestly an insane accomplishment, as I am hooked with each and every one of these issues for various reasons, and Absolute Green Lantern might be like my second favorite first issue out of Absolute DC so far, because it has a lot of mystery and a lot of intrigue. Art style is great, and I am so curious to see how things are going to go with the future of this whole run. But before I get into this issue, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. I'll do my very best to cover Absolute Green Lantern with every issue or every 2 to 3 issues, depending on how I schedule things with what I'm already covering. Also, we just hit 300 subscribers, so thank you very much. I'm so happy that we reached that goal already. Let's get to 500 subscribers soon as well. But now, let's jump right into Absolute Green Lantern issue number 1. And we start off with Absolute Universe's version of Hal Jordan, as he's saying, be without fear. And this voice is in Hal's head saying, "You are in the absence of light. I am the secret heart within every star. Be without fear. Hal Jordan, you must be without fear." As a ring-like object swirls around in the darkness, as Hal opens his eyes in shock, saying, "Without fear," as he's walking along a highway in the middle of nowhere, as he says, "I'm so scared." It's then that a officer pulls over to see what's going on with Hal, as he is incredibly scared now that he's interacting with this officer. As the officer's asking him what he's doing out here, as he's about to cross the state line, and it's incredibly hot right now in the desert, as Hal is trying to bring something up, but the officer asks him what's in his pocket, as Hal's left hand is stuffed in his pocket, and Hal starts crying and panicking, as the officer keeps pressing him for an answer, asking if it's drugs, if it's a weapon, and whether or not it is. We then get an image of the circle in the darkness, as the officer yells to be answered, asking if Hal is carrying a weapon, as he then pulls out his gun saying, "Fine, we'll do it this way. Lie down and place both your hands flat on the ground now," as Hal's trying to get him to stop. The officer keeps pressing him to get down on the ground. Hal is telling him he can't, is that his name is Hal Jordan, he's from Evergreen, as he says something happened from this guy named Abin Sur. It's then that the officer says, "Show me your hand," as Hal begins to reach his hand out of his left pocket, as once he does, his hand seems like it's drenched in the color black, and then the panel goes completely dark, with the next page showing a terrified Hal Jordan with his hand back in his pocket saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," with the officer gone, leaving nothing but his badges and a hole in the ground. Now, Hal said Abin Sur. Now, while my whole knowledge on Green Lantern lore is, well, to be as humble and honest as I can, very surface level, just bare bones with Green Lantern. I've only read like 2 different Green Lantern books from New 52 and DC Rebirth. I'm catching up on a lot of old stuff, but I do know that Abin Sur is the Green Lantern that gave Hal the ring that eventually gave him the powers of Green Lantern, and became the Green Lantern of his sector of space for the Green Lantern Corps. So whatever's going on with Hal and that dark ring-like object in the darkness that's being represented and talking to Hal has something to do with Abin Sur. So that's already a big mystery going forward right now, as the title of this issue is The Black Hand. We then cut to a diner with a whole bunch of people watching TV, talking about the game, as Hal ends up just cozying and walking back in, as everybody just kind of stares at him for now. Hal asks for some water, and the waitress ends up asking if something happened and if he's okay, as Hal says something happened. But then, all of a sudden, the TVs get an emergency news broadcast, as they're giving live footage that has not been edited, as in a double-page full spread, we see an area of a town completely destroyed, with a solid, what seems like construct that looks like the symbol for the Green Lantern Corps, just crushing a town with helicopters circling the area, as nobody knows what's going on. It's then that the news anchor, after saying this, ends up being told that they can't show any more footage and that they'll give updates as they get them, thus ending the emergency news broadcast, with everybody in the diner concerned over what's happened. Hal ends up crushing his water bottle after what has been shown on TV, with there being a ring left on the table from coffee stains as we get an image of the dark circle, as we then cut to 5 days ago, with Hal Jordan meeting up with Jon Stewart and someone else who is, I believe, a new character, Joe Mullen. Let me know if I pronounced her name correctly. I don't want to get this wrong. As the three of them are talking in a cafe, as we learn that in this world, seems like Hal is a collectibles dealer, as he gets stuff like, let's say in this issue, we talked about getting a Malibu Mary Dream house so that he could sell to people. So it seems like in this version, Hal makes his living, instead of being in the Air Force, he makes his living by getting collectibles and stuff and selling them for relatively high prices by getting them through auctions. And we also learn that Joe and John are working together as architects, which is honestly really, really good, because it shows that at least Jon Stewart still has basically his main profession, outside of the military, from when he was in the military in the mainline universe, as an architect. And even talks about how they got some new contracts in town. Then hear and look over to see a motorcycle gang running through the city, just going out just completely haphazardly, causing some, commotion in the background. Talk about whether or not they should call Guy, as he is a police officer in this universe, as they're saying that if Guy's ears are working, he'll probably know all about it. Plus, Joe isn't gonna call him, as Hal asks if they had a fight and if they're avoiding each other. But Guy Guy wanted Joe to go back to the Evergreen PD, but she ended up deciding not to. And it turned into an argument, but she says, but if he still doesn't understand why I quit, well, maybe they needed saying with their argument happening in that instance. So, really quick, I just want to say, I actually find this pretty fun to know that the three core Green Lanterns that everybody knows about, technically, until Kyle Rayner shows up, with Hal, John, and Guy all knowing each other in their daily lives in this town and not being Green Lanterns so far, is honestly a really fun way to bring them into this universe. Because I actually kind of like that these guys have been friends for a long time in their daily lives, and who knows, maybe they will become Green Lanterns or a Lantern variant in this universe for all we know. But still, I find this interesting, and I want to see how this ends up going forward in the future. Hal starts teasing Joe about why she really came back, and Joe says that it's best to keep things in the past for now, as she doesn't want to talk about it. Hal then brings up, then why are you wearing your wedding ring? But John changed the conversation to how he still carries around his mother's wedding ring with him, despite her passing away many years ago, and giving a fun fact about why the ring finger is the ring finger. As John just says, the ancients considered it the finger of magic. In fact, it was once believed that a vein ran directly through it, right to the heart of, but before John can finish his story, one of the motorcyclists ends up hitting a green wall and splatters all across it, to the shock of the group. As John, Hal, and Joe end up going outside to try and see what's going on, if the guy needs help, and to call an ambulance, Hal touches the wall. As he says, it's like there's a wall there and there's a give, but it's like a force field in a movie. And Joe tells John how not to touch it, as it could be radioactive. And they talk about how the biker was going hundreds of miles, over 100 miles an hour without a helmet. It just slammed right into it, as there's basically nothing left of his head, as we see a ring on the ground, which could be the wedding ring of his mother's that he keeps with him, or it could in fact be maybe Joe's, if it's not on her finger right now. I couldn't tell. Or maybe it was from the biker. Who knows? But John goes down to grab it, as the three of them end up investigating or trying to see what this is. They see the bikers that are seemingly might have been friends of the guy, but once they get to them, they end up going away as if they didn't see anything on the road and doesn't think that anything has happened. And as John's saying, maybe whatever, maybe no one noticed it somehow, and that he's not getting any cell reception, as Joe says that it's a dome that looks like it's curved around them. But it's then she notices something floating in the air. all up in the sky, it looks like the symbol of the Green Lantern Corps, similar to what we saw at the beginning of the issue that destroyed the town. As in a full page, we see what, with a title card, Abin Sur. As we then cut back to the present, as that was when Hal said the alien's name. Also, really quick, Abin Sur's design is so drastically different from his original, so yeah, this is like super, it kind of makes me feel like it's more of a Dragon Ball Z like design. It kind of looks like Majin Buu if he wasn't pink, and did not look goofy. Yeah, that's all I really gotta say for the design at the moment. It just looks really cool and kind of reminds me of Majin Buu. Anyway, back to the present, Hal ends up muttering his name and ends up talking about how he met the alien and said that he came from somewhere else, and that the symbol in the sky, it belonged to him. As everyone realizes that Hal was there, tears start streaming down his eyes. As he said, he called it the Green Lantern. A very large gentleman with a gold chain just kind of gets a bit fed up with him, telling him to make sense because he doesn't know what any of this means, while the lady behind him, which I'm assuming is a friend or a wife, perhaps, or a sister maybe, says not to kind of calm down. He's going through a lot. It's not his fault. But Hal basically just says, no, it is my fault. It's all my fault. I made a mistake. I wanted to be the hero. And Abin Sur, he did something to me. Gave me something. Gave me a weapon. As we focus on his left hand in his pocket. The waitress says, like a gun? As she reaches for a gun underneath the counter. And he said, worse, much worse, as she tells Hal to drink his water as she keeps reaching for the gun. The large gentleman ends up asking what's in his pocket. Hal says, basically flashing back to the trauma of just what happened to the cop as he kept asking questions as he gets up to try and go. As the other guy asks what happened to the cop, what did he do? Hal says, I didn't do anything, I couldn't. But the guy grabs onto Hal saying, give me that, as he wants to see what's going on and see what's in his pocket, whether it's a gun or a knife. But when he pulls out Hal's hand, it is engulfed in this glowing black energy. And in the next page, the hand extends out, floating the guy in the air as he turns all black and waves of dark energy surround him. And in sheer terror, everyone around, the pendant around his neck drops, and he is gone. He's disappeared, while Hal is doing everything he can to hold back the hand. And it takes all he has to hold it back, and to keep people away from him. Hal says he can't control it, and it responds to danger. As he tries to repeat that in response to danger, the waitress then shoots him in the chest with the gun that she had behind her counter, but in that instance after getting shot, a wave of black energy erupts from the diner, causing a earthquake and destroying everything. As we then see Hal is by himself in the diner, as he's bleeding out from the gunshot wounds, as he's in utter shock over what just happened. Everyone in the diner seems to have been disappeared, possibly dead. Hal looks at the bullet wound and kind of hopes that this wound will end up killing him as he bleeds out. But the hand goes towards the wound and uses the dark energy to completely heal him, much to Hal's shock, as he realizes that it's not gonna let him die. And while he is looking in horror at his arm, the door to the diner opens, as behind him is a green hue, as someone calls for his name, as we see Joe appears with the symbol of the Green Lantern and covered in a green light, asking Hal what happened to him. And that's where the issue ends. This was so interesting because not only are we getting this brand new version of Hal, John, and this new character, Joe, who looks like is going to be the Green Lantern of this universe for now, and that is how the creator of this comic, the writer of this comic, is planning to go about things. We're getting more of a cosmic horror type story for Green Lantern. And this isn't anything new to Green Lantern comics, at least as far as I've read a couple of them, but we're starting things off with this and everything with Abin Sur and how seemingly Joe got the Green Lantern powers, at least at the moment. Hal is already a major part of this book, and he's either a victim trying to hold back this power that could potentially become a power ring for him to use, or a type of power for him to use similar to the Green Lanterns that Al-Mansur gave to him, and he just has to overcome his own fear to truly utilize his power, or maybe this power could corrupt him and he can become an antagonist in this series. I'm not entirely sure. And also, what really happened in Evergreen? How did Hal get this power? How did Joe get this power? Why was this giant lantern symbol just destroy the entire town? And what happened to Jon Stewart? These are a lot of questions that need to be answered as this series goes forward, and I'm incredibly excited to see what happens next, because we're going a full reinvention, new way of using the Green Lanterns and their mythos, and overall I'm just excited to see what's going to happen. Also, the art style is really cool. There's a lot of detail and depth, and I'm not going to lie, it kind of feels like it's more of a anime manga art style, at least in my opinion. So it could just be me. I might be just looking for other things, but either way, I think it's a really cool art style, and the panel work is really good. But either way, this is a really great issue to start off Absolute Green Lanterns. So far, the Absolute Universe is 6 for 6 for just starting issues for all of their series in this new universe, and I can't wait to see how things expand from here. But what did you guys think of this first issue? Are you excited to see how Joe is going to be as a new Green Lantern of this universe? How do you think the mythos and the lore is going to expand from here? What do you think is going on with Hal, and what happened to Jon? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below, and once more, if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Now, with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.